Tobias Harris over me? Me? Tobias Harris over me? Me?
So, hey, Jimmy Butler's Tobias Harris over me video just never gets old, does it? Hey, welcome to the NBA Rundown. On today's show, we are going to talk about Jimmy Butler, the return of the Butler to the Miami Heat tonight as they just flat out destroy the absolutely horrific Philadelphia 76ers. So we're going to talk about Jimmy Butler. 106-89 was the final. We'll get into some details around that game, but I did want to spend a little bit of time, if you will, a special note for Pat Riley and the Miami Heat organization. And look, I'm not a Heat fan, but I think it would be a horrific mistake if the Miami Heat go ahead and trade Jimmy Butler. This is our Don't Trade Jimmy Butler video/audio podcast of the year. I hope I only have to do one of these. But certainly when you think about where the Miami Heat are, especially when a Jimmy Butler is healthy, I think it makes a lot of sense for Pat Riley to re-up for another 2 or 3 years with Jimmy Butler. We'll get into those details. I have some ideas around how the Miami Heat could actually pull this up, and I'm going to tell you exactly why the Miami Heat should not trade Jimmy Butler at this point, and it certainly has something to do with just how weak the Eastern Conference is. Welcome to the NBA Rundown. As always, I'm Dave DeBaugh. Hey, new to the show, please go ahead and subscribe. And of course, like this, I'm supposed to also tell you we have an audio version of the podcast as well, which is available, everywhere podcasts are available. So check that out. Now, I want to begin tonight with what happened in Miami this evening. Now, the Miami Heat ended up beating the Philadelphia 76ers 106-89. It was the first game back for Jimmy Butler in about 4.5 games. He missed 4 games and he was out of basically one of the games that he got injured in. Jimmy Butler tonight actually scored 30 points. He was 13 for 13 from the free throw line. I want you all to remember that as we begin the discussion or why the Miami Heat should not trade Jimmy Butler, but more on that in just a little bit. But in terms of this Miami Heat victory tonight, it was just absolutely awesome to watch. I watched the entire game on one of the TVs, and I had the Monday Night Football game going, at least the first half, on the other. And I can tell you that I was very impressed with what the Heat did this evening, especially considering they were actually down by 19 in the second quarter of this game. And then, if you will, I use one of my favorite announcer terms, came storming back to take down the Philadelphia 76ers, who should absolutely, as an organization right now, be totally ashamed of themselves. They are 2-11 on the year. And yes, I know Tyrese Maxey is out, but you had both Joel Embiid and Paul George playing tonight. You had the big dollars that you're paying playing tonight, and yet all you could muster, Philadelphia, was 89 points. Look, the rookie, Jared McCain, you can't blame anything on him. He scored 20 this evening. Caleb Martin, in 29 minutes of basketball, gave you what you could expect from Caleb Martin. The problem with the Philadelphia 76ers right now is actually, believe it or not, in the front office. The other pieces, which, as we all know in the NBA, sometimes are equally as important as the top pieces, are just not good enough right now for the Philadelphia 76ers. Okay, so on to the Miami Heat. Now, Jimmy Butler, as I mentioned, had a great game tonight. And if you look at the team's overall stats to this point, through this point of the season, Tyler Hero is nearly averaging 25 points a game. We know that Bam is bringing down a lot of rebounds in every single game. That is, who Bam is. He's leading the team with 9.2 rebounds per game. Tyler Hero is leading with assists at 5.2. Jimmy Butler tonight, I should point out, actually had 5 assists, so he wasn't a total ball hog this evening. And we all know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, Jimmy did go to the free throw line 13 times tonight, and he sunk all 13 of those. And that is a very important stat to always keep an eye on when you think about this Miami Heat team. You know, there's all this talk about Miami Heat culture. Miami Heat culture this. They put it on the floors now. They put it on the jerseys. They sell millions and millions of dollars worth of Miami Heat culture. And from a Miami Heat culture perspective, Jimmy Butler is certainly a big part of that culture. Look, I know the culture was there before Jimmy and will be there after Jimmy, but I have to say, if you can think of any player in the NBA that actually fits the grit of what Miami Heat culture is, it is Jimmy Butler. Now, I understand Pat Riley didn't want to be held over coals at a beach party someplace and asked to take his shoes off and walk on the coals and give Jimmy Butler exactly what Jimmy Butler wanted. Remember, Jimmy Butler is making $48 million this year and is scheduled, he's got a player option for next year. He's scheduled to make $52 million next year. So you might be asking yourself, DePaul, why are you in favor of the Miami Heat not actually trading Jimmy Butler? And there is a very good reason for that. Now, I am not saying the Miami Heat are going to be the best team in the Eastern Conference at any point during the season. What I am saying, however, is a healthy Jimmy Butler with a healthy Tyler Hero, a healthy Bam Adebayo, some other nice pieces like a Terry Rozier and a Duncan Robinson. Maybe they make a couple other deals to shore up the front line. Look, at the end of the day, you can't go into the playoffs thinking that Kevin Love is going to give you 20 points a game. If this Miami Heat team, which is currently 6-7 and is sitting in the 6th spot in the Eastern Conference, is going to take a real shot at doing some damage in the Eastern Conference playoffs this year, they would need to make another move or two. Or, as we know, the Heat have great scouts everywhere. They're scouting the YMCA right now in your town as I'm talking to you. So we know that the Miami Heat certainly are willing to go out and bring in some other players if they think they have a chance at it. Now, they are in 6th spot in the Eastern Conference. 6th spot in the Western Conference would get you the 13th spot right now. The East is going to continue to be weak for the rest of the year. Now, we know that the Cleveland Cavaliers are 15-0 at this point, and we know who the Boston Celtics are. We know the Celtics are going to be there. We know that the New York Knicks and Karl Anthony Towns, and we know that Tom Thibodeau is going to figure things out. And we saw what Tom Thibodeau did to a absolutely horrific Washington Wizards team, which I keep saying it, but I'll keep saying it in case you haven't already heard it, should be relegated from the association. They beat him by, I don't even know how many points. It was a lot of points tonight in the victory for the Knicks. Okay, I'm pulling it up. 134-106 was the final. I mean, Tommy Thibodeau is going to just crush bad teams, especially as he figures out how to make this sort of new look New York Knicks team actually work together. The Knicks tonight, Josh Hart 14, OG 16, Cat 24, Mikal Bridges 14. By the way, if you're expecting anything more out of Mikal Bridges on a loaded basketball team than 14 points a night, then I will be selling you a bridge in Brooklyn. Jalen Brunson, 26 points, and Cameron Payne. Look, the point of that is Mikal Bridges can score 30 points, 25 points a night on a bad basketball team, but on a basketball team that's fully loaded, you can expect him to be a fit-in player. So, back to our main topic tonight. I got derailed. But back to our main topic tonight, which is the Miami Heat and why they should not trade Jimmy Butler. Now, hear me out on this. In the the Eastern Conference at this point, if you look at the actual standings, you have the Cleveland Cavaliers who are 15-0, and we all know they're not going to keep that up, but they are 15-0 right now. You got the Boston Celtics at 11-3, Orlando at 8-6, and Paulo is hurt, but they're still playing pretty well. They've won 5 in a row. It's a good basketball team in Orlando this year. The New York Knicks are the 5th spot, and the New York Knicks are in the 4th spot, and in the actual 5th spot after a loss tonight by the Indiana Pacers. I don't even know what to say. The Pacers lost to the Raptors this evening. It's just ridiculous to even bring it up. But I mean, seriously, Indiana, what are you doing? They lost by 11 to the Raptors. Look, I know the Grey Cup was over the weekend. Maybe they got caught up in the Grey Cup hype of the CFL. I'm not really sure exactly what happened there. But look, the Heat are currently in the 5th spot, and they're 6-7. And Jimmy Butler, along with all the pieces I mentioned, are certainly a very dangerous team if they are healthy entering the playoffs. Look, they'll even have a chance of actually being one of the top 4 teams in the Eastern Conference, especially if they make a move or two. As I mentioned, they would need to do that to shore a couple things up. Look, at the end of the day, what are they going to get in exchange for Jimmy Butler? What are Pat Riley's options to actually keep this Miami Heat team from turning into the next Chicago Bulls? You know, a team that's always hovering around the playoffs, gets into the playoffs occasionally, but never has enough firepower to actually do anything. Jimmy Butler certainly has that Miami Heat culture fit where he certainly can actually help their team go deep. He's got that grit that you absolutely love to have on your basketball team. So look, now onto the money. We know that Pat Riley doesn't want to give Jimmy Butler a 5-year deal. So go ahead, give Jimmy Butler a 3-year deal. Give him a 3-year deal worth around $50 million a year. You've got the new television money coming in next year. You might as well go ahead and do it. And look, if it doesn't work out at the end of the season, you can still trade Jimmy Butler at that point. But at the end of the day, this makes very little sense. Now, there's all sorts of teams that are keeping a close eye on the Jimmy Butler scenarios. The Golden State Warriors have certainly been in the mix. The Oklahoma City Thunder, the Houston Rockets, just to mention a few of the 3 top contenders for Jimmy Butler services. Look, I'm not really sure I like any of those teams for Jimmy Butler necessarily. I'm not sure how Jimmy Butler would actually fit in. I guess maybe Houston would be the best spot. But is Jimmy Butler really in a better spot playing for the Houston Rockets than he currently is playing for the Miami Heat? Do the Houston Rockets really have enough firepower? I think the Houston Rockets are one of the funnest young teams to actually watch in the association. And somehow they blew a game tonight against the Milwaukee Bucks. But outside of that, I am a big fan of this Houston Rockets team, and I'd love to see what they can do keeping their young nucleus together. I hate to see them actually blow it up for Jimmy Butler at this point. Look, if the Golden State Warriors could get Jimmy Butler and only give up a couple pieces, maybe it makes sense. I'm not really sure how Jimmy would fit in with the Golden State Warriors way, if that would ultimately work or not. We know there's Tom Thibodeau sitting there in New York with a bunch of pieces as well, but I highly doubt that the Miami Heat would trade Jimmy Butler to another contender in the Eastern Conference at this point. So the best scenario is that they go ahead and ride things out this season, sign Jimmy Butler to a 3-year deal, and just let it ride and see what happens for the remainder of this season. Now, in order for this to actually really work, the Miami Heat are going to have to go make a move or two to help shore up their defense and offense. They need some additional pieces. Now, I know Terry Rozier was out tonight, but they need some additional big help down low to actually help solidify what Bam Adebayo is able to do for this team. Look, if they blow out Jimmy Butler, then they should just go ahead and blow out Bam and just start from scratch. That's where I'm at with this particular topic when it comes to whether or not they should trade Jimmy Butler. All right. That's what I've got for you tonight on the NBA Rundown. Love to know your thoughts and opinions. As always, please go ahead and drop those in. A couple quick scores for you from around the association. The Bucks got lucky and won 101-100 at home against the Houston Rockets. The Suns found another creative way to lose to the Orlando Magic today. As I mentioned, the Pacers were disgraceful loss to the Raptors. The Kings and Hawks are still playing. The Knicks ended up beating the Wizards fairly easily. And the Golden State Warriors and the Los Angeles Clippers in Los Angeles are just starting the third quarter. All right, that is your NBA Rundown for a Monday night. For the NBA Rundown, I'm Dave DeBaugh, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing day.
This is Phoenix.